All right, what is up? We are back. There should be a previous video going through the process of putting this together. There's been a couple streams. It is not that hard and it is pretty easy to use, but for some reason, it wasn't working right out the box. So screw it. Let's just do it ourselves and make it something that I can use. The local GPT LLM trainer. Let's go through it. Should take about 5 minutes in and out, and you should be able to run this on your computer with absolutely no issues. I've tested it a few times. All right, so there are 3 files that do stuff that you need to worry about. The requirements.txt, obviously, that's part of the installation process. And there are pretty good instructions here by yours truly. But let's get to the files that you need to run. And the only file that you actually need to run is the GPT LLM trainer, but all the other files do have things that need to be edited. All right, so let's just get to the installation. Super simple. I'm using Conda Anaconda, so first, we're going to create a new environment. I am not sure how easily you're going to be able to read this, but this is the same process I do all the time. Create a new environment, conda create n, and I'm going to call this test env. And I'm not going to specify the Python version because I want the newest one. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and we're going to let it go. There we go. I'm going to hit yes, and there we go. So let's conda activate test env, and we're in. Now, as always, it's a good practice to conda install pip. I was having trouble with permissions without having pip installed in the active directory, in the active environment. Go ahead and hit yes, let that work, and there we go. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is clone this repo. Well, actually, that's the third thing we want to do because we're following these install steps. Cloning the repo, super simple. Just go to the code drop down here, go to the HTTPS link, and copy that, git clone, control shift V, bada boom, bada bing, and then you want to CD into it. It's going to be the same name. It's going to create a folder with the same name as the repo. So local GPT LLM trainer, and there we go. Now we can open it up in VS Code with the code dot. You can use whatever interpreter you want. It does not matter. I already have it installed here, but I will install it again because why not? All right, so we've cloned the repo. The final step is to install all the requirements, dependencies, whatever you want. It's all pip based, so pip install -r requirements dot, why can I not spell that word? Requirements.txt should take care of everything. And there we go. This is going to take however long it takes. All right, so there we go. It has successfully installed all of the requirements. I didn't specify any versions because it should, the only time I think it's important to specify versions is if you want to use an older version. So this should be fun. And now we're going to go back here, change the interpreter to the test env, which is what, I don't know if that, yeah, there we go. So test env, that should get us going. And there we are. We've successfully completed the install process. Obviously you want to make sure that you have the required software, but if you're watching this video, you probably should. And let's be honest here, this is not free. You're using OpenAI API, and we're generating a lot of examples, and I think about 1,000 examples cost me about $10, but I was also generating other things, but it is going to cost a couple dollars to get 1,000 examples at the minimum. So this is not free, but let's take a look at the code and see what we got. All right, so we got the repo set up. Let's take a look at the code and see what we need to get things running. Again, I have instructions on the repo that I put together that are very good, so we're just going to follow those. There are 3 files. The main file, I guess, or the file you run will be the GPT LLM trainer. That file accesses the GPT LLM data prep file, which then accesses the data generator file. All right, so starting with the data generator file, here you can set the device order and visible devices, but you are going to have to set that again in the GPT LLM trainer because for some reason, that's just what you have to do. There are 2 sections that can be changed, the content for the generate example and generate system message, but these are just kind of explaining how to set up the examples, and this one's explaining how to set up the system message, and I think they're pretty good prompts, so I wouldn't change them, but that is where they're specified. All right, and here we are at the GPT LLM data prep. There's a nice little GPT generated description here that I threw in, but here is where you specify the actual prompt that you want to use. So this is what kind of examples you'd like to be generated, not really the format. This I would change depending on your use case. The temperature, this is how much variation you want in the responses. Higher temperature is higher variation, lower temperature is lower variation. Number of examples, this is how many examples you want to be generated. As I said before, a thousand examples definitely costs more than $3. So be careful with this. The OpenAI API key, that is the API key, and you should know how to get that. But if you don't, it's in here. You just create a new secret key. You call it whatever, and there you go, it's done. You don't want to share that. If you do share that, someone can copy it and run up a tab on your account, and I don't think that there's any recourse that you can take if that does happen. So let's go ahead and revoke that, and we'll go ahead and revoke this one too, because I didn't want to use that one. All right, and we're going a little bit over our self-imposed time limit, but that will be all right. Here we are finally at the GPT LLM trainer. This is the file you run. Here the path is checked, so if the path that the GPT LLM data prep has output to is not the same here, then you can change those. And there are the hyper parameters for training. You can specify the model name. Any Hugging Face model will do. Just go to Hugging Face, you go to the model page, click use in transformers, and it'll give you the model name, and you can just copy that and paste it in there. The data set name, first I would generate data and then worry about this afterwards. But just try and keep it the same just keep it here, because it's going to split the output into test and train data sets, and just keep it at train, but make sure that it's in the right directory. So whatever directory this is in, I would put this in that directory as well. And then the new model, this is the name of the new model that's going to be generated after training. And here are some LoRa parameters, which I wouldn't change. Don't worry about it. 4-bit, you want to keep that if you don't have a ridiculous amount of GPU VRAM. Output directory, I would keep that here. There's no reason to change that. The training batch size, this is how many examples will be trained on at the same time. 4 is a pretty good number. I think you want to keep it a multiple of the number of cores that you have. Actually, that's not true. So, well, it kind of is. So, but don't worry about that. The number of epochs, so I would change this to be 1,000,000 examples. So 1 epoch is 1 pass through of the data. So if you have 1,000 examples, I would do 10,000 epochs. Obviously that's a ridiculously number of epochs, but if you did do that, I would expect that you get results that are pretty similar to some of the models that get released on Hugging Face. The learning rate, that's how much the data's changed per example. That's something you can change. The grad norm and the weight decay, I wouldn't mess with that. The gradation accumulation steps, I wouldn't mess with that. Gradient checkpointing, I'd keep that as true. The LR scheduler type, I'll have to look that up. Max steps, warm-up ratio. To get the model training, it's going to speed up the learning rate and stuff like that. So I wouldn't worry about that. Yeah, I wouldn't really change anything other than the model name, dataset name, the number of epochs, and the training batch size. Those are what I would change here. And the training paths, obviously, if you need to change those, I would. But other than that, everything else is pretty much contained and ready to rock. All right, so that's all I got for you today, folks. Obviously, if you have any questions, comment them. You know I'm going to be responding. I have seen some people responding on my GitHub, which is very fire. If you want to help out, the best thing you could do is clone this repo and star it. That would be the best thing you could do. I would really appreciate that. Posting issues is also very helpful. Commenting on my YouTube channels, that's also very helpful. Sending me an email, talking back and forth with me. Just, we can get a community going. If we were making posting videos, you were posting videos, I'm responding to your videos, people are responding to my videos, we're responding to each other's repos, we could have a little unit, and a unit is, they say it's better than being alone. I've never experienced it, so I wouldn't know, but I'm willing to. So, let's get to it, my guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I'll be back in the future, maybe even tomorrow. We just don't know, but peace.